Have you ever faced a challenge that seemed completely impossible? A moment where the odds were so stacked against you, you felt like giving up was the only option? Well, today we're diving into a story about a man who faced exactly that, on a scale most of us can't even imagine. We're talking about one of the most pivotal battles in ancient history, the Battle of Gaugamela. This is the story of how a 25-year-old Alexander the Great, with an army dwarfed by his enemy, took on the mighty Persian Empire and changed the course of history forever. It's the year 331 BC. Alexander of Macedon has already carved a path of conquest from Greece to Egypt. He's proven himself to be a military genius, but now he faces his ultimate test. Standing between him and total domination of the known world is Darius III, the King of Kings, and his colossal Persian army. Darius is furious. He's lost territory, he's lost prestige, and he's not about to lose his empire. He has spent months gathering a force so massive, so intimidating, that it was meant to not just defeat Alexander, but to utterly annihilate him. Ancient sources, while often exaggerated, give us a sense of the sheer scale. Historians like Arrian suggest Darius had around 250,000 soldiers, while some accounts go as high as 1 million. To make sure nothing was left to chance, Darius chose the battlefield himself. He selected a wide, flat plain near Gaugamela in modern-day Iraq. Why a flat plain? To give his chariots and cavalry the maximum advantage, with no hills or rough terrain for Alexander's smaller, more agile force to hide behind. He even had his men level the ground, removing any shrubs or obstacles that could possibly disrupt his grand charge. The stage was set for a slaughter. Darius was so confident that he reportedly had his royal tent and treasures set up nearby, ready to watch the destruction of the Macedonian upstart. The night before the battle, the tension was palpable. The Persian camp was a sea of campfires, stretching as far as the eye could see. The sound of 100,000 men and horses echoed across the plain. Alexander's generals were understandably nervous. One of his most trusted commanders, Parmenion, approached him with a suggestion. "Let's attack at night. The chaos and darkness will favor our smaller force and panic the Persians." It was a logical, cautious plan. But Alexander wasn't a cautious man. He famously replied, "I will not steal my victory." He wanted to face Darius in the light of day, to win a decisive, undeniable victory that would leave no doubt about who was the true master of Asia. He was betting everything on his strategy, his training, and the unbreakable spirit of his men. So, what was this master plan? How could you possibly overcome a 5-to-1 disadvantage on a battlefield handpicked by your enemy? This is where Alexander's genius truly shines. He knew he couldn't win a traditional head-on fight. A simple clash of battle lines would see his army swallowed whole. He needed to be clever. He needed to rewrite the rules of warfare. As the sun rose on the 1st of October, the two armies faced each other. Darius placed himself in the center of his massive line, protected by his best infantry and cavalry, the standard formation for a Persian king. His scythed chariots were positioned at the front, ready to unleash hell. His cavalry wings were enormous, designed to sweep around and completely envelop Alexander's small army. Alexander, on the other hand, did something bizarre. Instead of arranging his army in a straight line facing the Persians, he organized them in a strange, oblique, or diagonal formation. His right wing, which he commanded personally, was advanced much further forward than his left. He also created a unique reserve force in a square formation behind his main lines. This wasn't just a battle plan, it was a trap. The battle began. Alexander started by marching his army not straight ahead, but to the right, almost parallel to the Persian line. This was a completely baffling move. He was seemingly marching right off the edge of the battlefield that Darius had so carefully prepared. Darius was confused. Was Alexander trying to escape, or was he trying to draw the Persian cavalry out onto rougher ground? Fearing Alexander would move beyond his flattened terrain, Darius made his first mistake. Ordered his cavalry on his left wing to ride out and stop Alexander's strange sideways advance. This was exactly what Alexander wanted. As the Persian cavalry charged out, it created a gap between them and the Persian center. It was the first crack in the massive Persian wall. Alexander had baited the hook, and Darius had taken it. But what about those terrifying scythed chariots? Darius unleashed them, hoping to smash Alexander's infantry formations. But Alexander was ready. He had trained his men for this specific threat. As the chariots thundered towards them, his frontline infantry did something incredible. They opened their ranks, creating channels for the chariots to pass through. The chariots, with no way to steer effectively at high speed, simply raced harmlessly through the gaps. Javelin throwers positioned in these channels then targeted the horses and drivers from the sides. The super weapon that was meant to win the battle was neutralized almost instantly with brilliant discipline and a simple, clever tactic. Now, with the chariots gone and the Persian left-wing cavalry engaged far out on the flank, Alexander saw his moment. The gap in the Persian line was widening. It was time to spring the trap. He ordered his own elite cavalry, the companion cavalry, into a wedge formation. With himself at the very tip of the spear, he wheeled dramatically and charged. Not at the cavalry fighting on the wing, but directly into the gap he had just created. He was aiming for the heart of the Persian army, Darius himself. This was the hammer and anvil tactic that Alexander perfected. His infantry, the phalanx, would act as the anvil, holding the main enemy line in place, while his cavalry, the hammer, would swing around and smash the enemy from the side or rear. Here he was performing a breathtakingly audacious version of it, aiming straight for the king. The charge of the companion cavalry was devastating. They sliced through the disorganized Persian guard and headed straight for Darius's royal chariot. Imagine the scene: dust, chaos, the clash of steel, and suddenly, through the maelstrom, Darius sees Alexander the Great, the man he called a bandit, charging directly at him, his spear leveled. For Darius, this was it. All his numbers, all his planning, it all meant nothing in the face of this ferocious, targeted assault. And he did what he had done once before at the Battle of Issus. He panicked. Darius turned his chariot and fled the battlefield. The moment a king flees, the will of his army often breaks. Word spread like wildfire through the Persian ranks. The king is gone. He has abandoned us. The center of the Persian army, which had been under immense pressure, collapsed into a full-blown rout. Victory was in Alexander's grasp. But the battle wasn't over yet. While Alexander was triumphing on the right, his left wing, commanded by the old general Parmenion, was in serious trouble. The sheer weight of the Persian right-wing cavalry was overwhelming Parmenion's forces. They were being outflanked, and the line was on the verge of breaking. A desperate messenger reached Alexander, begging for help. Here, Alexander faced a critical choice. He could pursue the fleeing Darius, capture or kill him, and end the war in a single stroke. This was the glorious, ego-driven path. Or he could abandon his personal pursuit and go to the aid of his struggling men. This moment defines Alexander not just as a conqueror, but as a commander. He chose his men. He wheeled his cavalry around, gave up the chase for Darius, and slammed into the back of the Persian right wing that was swarming Parmenion's troops. This relief charge shattered the remaining Persian morale, and what was a struggle on the left turned into another rout. The Battle of Gaugamela was over. The field belonged to Alexander. The cost was staggering for the Persians, with tens of thousands lost. In contrast, Alexander's losses were astonishingly light, likely numbering in the mere hundreds. He had faced an impossible army on a field of their choosing and had achieved one of the most complete and brilliant victories in military history. So how did he do it? It wasn't magic. It was a combination of superior training and discipline, innovative tactics, Alexander's own unparalleled leadership, and willingness to take calculated risks. He refused to fight his enemy's fight. He dictated the terms of the engagement through his bizarre opening maneuvers. He anticipated and neutralized his enemy's greatest threats. And most importantly, he led from the front, inspiring his men by sharing their danger and aiming his decisive blow with surgical precision. The aftermath was world-changing. Darius was later assassinated by his own nobles, and Alexander was crowned king of Asia. The Achaemenid Persian Empire, which had dominated the world for over 2 centuries, was no more. Alexander's victory opened the door for Greek culture, language, and ideas to spread eastward, creating a new Hellenistic world that would influence art, science, and philosophy for centuries to come. The story of Gaugamela is more than just a battle. It's a masterclass in strategy, leadership, and courage. It shows us that sometimes the biggest challenges aren't overcome with brute force, but with a better plan, the courage to be different, and the unwavering belief in your own ability to succeed against all odds. Thanks for watching. If you found this piece of history as fascinating as I do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more epic stories from the past. Let us know in the comments what other historical battles you'd like us to cover. See you next time.